Jennifer Haynes. I'm an attorney here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I've always wanted to talk to the people that I find most interesting and share my conversations with the world. This is David Williams. He's a small business owner here in Atlanta. He's been posting some very interesting things on social media of late, and I've wanted to share his conversations and his comments with the world and get a little more of an in-depth conversation. What I'm hoping to do is to have the kind of video blog that I would want to see, which is an in-depth conversation of issues relating to whatever's going on in the world today. And this first one, we're going to talk about Jussie Smollett because that's what's hot today. This is February 22nd, 2019. David, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little more about you.
Okay, my name is David W. Williams. I'm the founder of a company called Digital Underground Sales and Marketing. And primarily what we do at Digital Underground Sales and Marketing, we've helped small business owners, I would say, double their revenue, grow a profitable business by using direct response methods, Facebook ads, and then something else I will call dark persuasion. And it allows them to better able to communicate the needs and the solutions that they have for the particular customer and how they can fit those particular solutions to the customer's needs and help that customer and therefore grow their own business.
Well, we've been talking about doing this video blog for a little while now.
Okay.
And the reason that I decided that now was the time and the time was hot was because of a post on your Facebook page about Jussie Smollett. And I just found it to be fascinating to hear all the different perspectives and hear your perspective about this event.
Okay.
And so go ahead, start telling us what you think happened and why.
Okay, so what I think happened now is totally different than what I thought happened when the story originally came out. So you want to talk about what I thought happened when the story originally came out or what I think happened now?
Let's start with the beginning. How did you first perceive the story?
Okay, so when I first perceived the story, I thought that it was a situation in which he had been attacked. I always believed the attack was true. I thought he had actually been attacked. I always felt the details around the attack that I had heard, that I believed that he was giving were kind of shaky. And so I really felt like he wasn't giving us 100% the full story around why he was attacked. And I felt like the story that he was presenting to the public was kind of shaky, and there was more going on behind the scenes. And so I felt like we weren't given 100% the full story. And I felt like it was very unfortunate that he had been attacked because everybody has a right to move around society and not feel like they're going to be attacked by somebody else. But I felt like the reason why he said he had been attacked was 100% the truth, and I wanted to know why he was doing that.
Did you think that he had set this up himself or that he was lying about anything?
I don't necessarily, when I say set him up himself, I don't necessarily know the definition of that, but I felt like he was not being 100% truthful either by omission or by adding some things to the story.
So what did you think he might have been adding to the story?
I kind of thought adding to the story the whole angle that he was attacked because somebody saw him somewhere, they recognized him from Empire, and because they didn't like him because he was a black homosexual was the total 100% justification for the attack.
At 2 o'clock in the morning in the cold of Chicago.
Not necessarily at 2 o'clock in the morning. It could have been about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I thought his angle that somebody recognized him as a black homosexual man, and that therefore was their motivation for the attack.
Did you think that because of what he had on, or was that because you thought he was not a big enough black gay man to be targeted that way?
It's not necessarily about him being a big enough black gay man. To me, I think black people have this mentality that people that are famous to black people are famous to everybody else. And in my opinion, most black celebrities are only famous to black people. So because I didn't know that the people that attacked him were black, I didn't understand how anybody would recognize him in the larger society. You know, we live in Atlanta, Georgia. Gay black men in Atlanta, Georgia are not unicorns. So if you were to see, or if I was to see Jussie Smollett in Atlanta, Georgia, I would be like, okay, that's Jussie Smollett, and just keep walking down the street. To me, a celebrity is Denzel Washington or LeBron James or Taraji Henderson. It's not Jussie Smollett. To me, is not even a celebrity. So I wouldn't even see how he would stand out from anybody, even at 2 o'clock in the morning. I would just keep walking by the guy. So I just didn't understand how he stood out enough for somebody to recognize him, to therefore identify him, to define certain parts of his who he is as a person, kind of like demo this guy, profile this guy, and then therefore say, okay, well, he's the person we want to go attack.
Okay. So then, how has your opinion changed about his story?
Everything that has come out now, personally, and we just earlier talked about some new information that I wasn't even aware of. I kind of think that somebody else put him up to this, and he was made to go execute it, and because he doesn't really know what he's doing, it just got bungled.
So why would somebody else put him up to this?
I don't know, because I don't know the kind of people that he deals with and the kind of people he talks to. But I don't think this is my thing. I don't think Jussie Smollett is a bad person. I think he was put in a bad situation and made to try to execute something that he doesn't have the capability of executing. And so it just went wrong because it's not his capability. So I really think it's going to come out that he's caught in the middle of something else.
What do you think he would be caught? Like, what kind of things?
I don't know. I think that he's moving in different crowds, and so we understand that somebody can tell you, hey, Jennifer, I want you to go do this. And if you do it, there's a benefit for you in another situation. And so I think he was kind of put in a situation where he was going to try to be the face of something and made to try to execute something. And he just don't have the ability to pull it off. And so it unraveled because he doesn't have the capability of pulling off something, and that's going to be that complex.
Okay, so you think maybe somebody approached him and said, hey, we can concoct the story and put this together and get it out here and bring attention to our cause.
Exactly.
And he said, okay, I'll do it.
Exactly. And maybe not that specific. It was just implied if he could make something like this work for him, it could help him later on down the line. And then I think he was put in a position where he had to execute it. And it just didn't work out for him.
So you think that that's the kind of thing that... So I'll be honest, and I do think that there is a person who is... and I don't want to get caught up because I'm an attorney. I don't want to get caught up in any kind of libel or slander. But I do think that there are celebrities around him that are known to be emotionally unstable that are involved. I do think that. I actually think it's... I have a person in mind directly. And we discussed him earlier, so you know who I'm talking about. I think he's behind all of this. And I think that individual could very well have done that. But what do you think about the drug angle?
Well, I mean, I think the drug angle could be accurate.
So let's just stop for a second in case everybody doesn't know. The drug angle is that the two so let me even take another step back because somebody might watch this and not know all the details. Allegedly, and this is from the Chicago Police Department, there are two Nigerian brothers that worked on the set of Empire, one of whom was Smollett's personal trainer. And according to the police, the other brother was Smollett's drug dealer, and he was taking a drug called Molly, which is what?
It's classified as a designer drug. I call it a party drug, but some people classify it as a designer drug.
Okay, so I don't know anything about drugs, so and I have also heard that it's something similar to crystal meth or something of that nature. I don't do drugs, so I don't know. However, according to Chicago police, Smollett wrote a post-dated check for $3,500 that was to pay for these drugs. And as a result of, we don't know really yet, I don't think that's been completely clear, the two brothers attacked him. See, this part of the story doesn't make sense to me. That these two brothers would then be involved with him to attack him to help him out when he in fact owed them money.
No, that's not. The thing is, they may have attacked him because he owed money to them. He was into them for drugs. Then he tried to flip it into something else.
Okay.
Instead of coming out and just saying, I have a drug addiction issue, and as a result, I was attacked because I have a drug addiction issue, and I need help.
Okay, so you think that's how it went down?
I'm not saying I think that's how it went down. What I'm saying is that I don't think Jussie Smollett is a malicious person. I think he's caught in the middle of something, and then the situation was tried to be leveraged to another situation, and because he doesn't really understand what's really going on around him and how complex these things are, we start involving the police and people that are really critical thinkers, and he was made to execute it, and he don't have the capability to execute that.
You don't think he's smart enough. So what you're saying?
No, I didn't say I don't think he's smart enough. I don't think he has the capability to execute that kind of situation.
Why not?
Because
what kind of skills would he have needed to have? That's my question.
He would need to understand a lot about how the police are going to investigate a scenario, and understanding how to cover himself and to make things look legitimate, to where essentially you now got to fool the police. So it's going to be very difficult. It's not easy to fool the police when they got nothing but time and money to continue to investigate a situation.
Why do you think this took off the way it did? Why do you think the Chicago police did the releasing the leaks? You know, every 24 hours there was a new leak that then they backtracked on. Why do you think the police department handled it the way they did?
Because it turned political. And once it turns political, now, to me, the police department want to protect themselves, because police departments are also political institutions. So once, to me, it went from just a regular attack to now a political issue, because it started to turn political, because they started leading with the fact that it's more of an issue of homosexual rights as opposed to just a street attack over drugs. So I felt and he's a high profile person on some level. I think now the Chicago police felt, okay, we're going to do everything we can do, one, to cover our own behinds, and also embarrass him for making this thing a political issue.
So had he not, but he did not make it a political issue. Lee Daniels made it the political issue when he released that tape. Jussie Smollett did not make it political. He didn't release the tape. He didn't say that this was he wasn't the first to say this was a hate crime. Lee Daniels came to the hospital and did that.
Okay, so even though Lee Daniels did it, because Jussie Smollett was the face of it, and it was his case, it wasn't Lee Daniels' case, that's how Jussie Smollett got caught up in the middle of this. So it may have been Lee Daniels that did it, but because Jussie Smollett essentially was what we call marketing the attractive character, then the pressure got, because that's who the Chicago police could go after. They couldn't go after Lee Daniels. He's not even in Chicago, and his issue, nothing happened to Lee Daniels in Chicago, in which the Chicago police could point it at him.
So then when you start following the crumbs, and you see that Lee Daniels came and released that whole tape, and then he left Chicago, and now this poor guy is stuck in the middle. You think he's maybe not an innocent victim, but also a double victim in some ways.
Yeah, I think he got caught in the middle of something that's a lot bigger and complex than what he can handle. And with him being, he's an actor, he's not necessarily an A-list guy. He's trying to move forward in life. He's trying to move up the status. I think he maybe thought this could help him in some way.
And so he didn't squash it earlier.
I think if it was a drug issue, I think it would have been more beneficial to him to come out with the drug issue. Because a lot of people got drug issues. So it's not like people would be unsympathetic to the fact that you got caught in the middle of a drug addiction. I think him going political with it to where now it's an issue of homosexual.
But he did not go political.
I understand, but he was the face of it.
Yeah, so but he did not.
Okay,
but
he was the face of it.
He was the face of it, but he did not. Lee Daniels made it.
So what kind of Lee Daniels kind of did was let's say, assuming that Lee Daniels is behind it, what Lee Daniels would have done is set the table and walked away. If you continue to sit at the table and continue to keep operating in that particular space, then because only people left at the table now is the Chicago PD and Jussie Smollett. Lee Daniels is gone.
He's gone.
See what I'm saying? So he sets the table, you sit down at the table, he leaves the table, and you keep eating at the table. So the problem is now you're going to be the person stuck with the bill. And like I said before, I think the situation it was more complex than what Jussie has the capability of understanding. Because once you start putting police into it, and we're not trying to denigrate police, we're not talking about you dealing with like patrolmen, you're dealing with detectives and people, they're really good at investigation. They know how to take other people that are ancillary on the periphery of a situation and flip them towards you to use them again. This is what they do for a living.
That's what they do.
And if you don't know that that's how this game is going to get played, and how they know how to take people and find out whether or not they are desperate and try to use them against you and start getting people around you to turn on you, you're going to get caught up in the middle of it and not even know how I got to that position.
Let's talk about some of the tactics that were used by the Chicago Police Department. And I'm not an anti-police person, but I found it interesting that the brothers came out saying that they were in fact American citizens and had been raised in America, and yet the police always referred to them as Nigerians.
Exactly.
Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, you got to understand that this is, like I said before, this is what they do. Okay? And they also understand how to present a story to the public they have professionals on the force that's what they do. So they understand how to keep everything consistent. And one thing you saw about the Chicago PD is you saw that when they wanted to investigate a case, come to a conclusion very rapidly, you saw that they had the capability of doing that. When other situations like Laquan O'Donnell, you saw how they were able to drag their feet for almost years, so you couldn't come to a conclusion because they also have the ability to do that. So the Chicago police, being a large municipal police force, they're very capable at what they do. And Jussie Smollett being one individual is not going to be as capable as them, because they can put 30 people in the situation as just him by himself. And that's why you don't get caught in those kind of situations by yourself, because you can't outthink 30 people.
That's true. One person cannot outthink 30 people. So when you heard them refer to the brothers as Nigerians, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
I didn't really have anything going through my mind, because what I just realized is that they're trying to build a narrative against Jussie Smollett, and they will use anybody that they think is desperate or in a bad situation, or that they can leverage something against to help create that narrative.
So let me tell you what I thought. When they said that they were Nigerians, the first thing that I thought was, before the brothers came out and said they were citizens, was now they have all the leverage in the world. Because if they are non-citizens and Nigerians, their status in this country has suddenly become in jeopardy.
Exactly.
And so once you put that out there that you're deportable, they're going to say whatever.
Exactly.
They're going to say whatever they have to say. So I don't know if they were citizens or not. But if they were deportable, their whole story is suspect to me from the jump. Not because I think that they're bad people, but if I'm deportable and the choice is between me turning on somebody else or to stay or taking the blame in order to stay in this country, and I want to stay here, of course I'm going to tell them what they want to hear.
And not just that, because I know they had went to Nigeria and they had come back.
Mm-hmm.
If they're regularly traveling between here and Nigeria, even if they're citizens, they can just be threatened with, hey, we're going to take your passports.
That's right.
And that's enough leverage to make them think, well, I want to go back to Nigeria to see my family, to do other things. If they just take my passport, I don't have the capability of doing that. That could be enough motivation now for them to work with the police.
That's
so
right.
If you have never dealt with the police or anything of that nature, and you don't really know the extent and the limits of what they'll do to try to get a case against you, you will not understand what you're doing when you involve them in a situation, and you're really not solid on what's going on.
That's right. So as you've observed the social media outcry, because I've seen a lot of people, black, gay, straight, white, everybody has condemned Jussie Smollett, and I have thought to myself, his case is completely defensible. He has a strong defensible case.
Okay.
Because I can see how to impeach those Nigerian brothers right now sitting here at the table, and I don't have all the facts. But they're impeachable. They have a motive for lying. And he could be telling, and we said this earlier, two people can explain identical events two different ways and both think they're telling the truth. But if they have a motivation to lie, he could be telling what he perceived as the truth throughout the entire event. And these guys have lied. If in fact they beat him up for a drug debt and didn't identify themselves at the time, didn't identify themselves when they sent that letter, it's entirely possible that he is an innocent victim, and by the time in a 24-hour media cycle, the story gets out and we have 1 million comments on Facebook, the die is cast. I mean, it's a deep hole to dig yourself out of.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was very important that only Jussie really knows if his issue with these Nigerian brothers is over drugs. And I think I know he probably doesn't want to go against Lee Daniels, but I think it would have been better if that would have been the narrative, as opposed to this is now a homosexual or gay rights issue.
Well, it's not just a homosexual or gay rights issue. Let's not forget that this was one of these moments of intersectionality where we have the insults were not just attacking his gayness, but also the fact that he was an African American man. But they called him both names, both the N word and the F word during the attack, or at least that was what was alleged.
Okay.
So the attack is not just that they found this high profile gay man. They would not have attacked. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of somebody else, but they wouldn't have attacked a white gay celebrity.
Okay.
Those attacks and those words were specifically because he was both black and gay.
Okay.
Because I don't want to. It's easy for us to separate ourselves from that attack in that sense that, that was an other. But it wasn't. It could have been a black man that was insulted in the same way, or a white gay man. This happened to be both a black and gay man, and that intersectionality I don't want to be ignored.
What is that without us knowing that it was Nigerians that did it?
Whether it was Nigerians or not that did it, from his perspective, he was attacked because he was both and black. Yes.
Okay, because I've been attacked by black people, and I never thought it was because I was black.
But see, he doesn't know who his attackers are.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Once we know that it was actually Nigerians that attacked him.
Well, once we know it was Nigerians that knew him that attacked him, then we know it wasn't nothing to do with the black or the gay. It was because of whatever else.
Yeah.
Either it was the drugs or the whatever, but it was for some reason other than him being black and gay. And according to the Chicago police, this was actually an attack that he orchestrated.
Okay, so I don't know whether or not he orchestrated it, but like I said before, I don't feel he was 100% truthful around the real reason why he got attacked. And we're seeing that now, that he was not 100% truthful around the real reason why he got attacked.
Well, or maybe he was, but he didn't. Let's assume, just for the sake of argument, that he did not know his attackers or why he was being attacked.
Okay.
Just say that. So, if he did not know, and they did in fact say that to him, then he was truthful. Now, if he orchestrated the attack, then everything's off the table. He's lied about it all. But if he didn't orchestrate the attack, if these guys beat him up for whatever reason, if they are saying, well, he instructed us to do it.
Okay.
So therefore, he instructed us to do it, and therefore, this is what happened. Why would he instruct the people that owe him money to go beat his ass on the corner at 2 o'clock in the morning? He could have picked another time and another place other than 2 o'clock in the morning outside the subway in 8-degree weather if he was going to orchestrate an attack.
Yeah, I just think the story that, and I said this before, is that someone saw him at 2 o'clock in the morning and was able to recognize him because he was on Empire. Okay? And then said, there's that black gay dude that's on Empire. Let's go attack him. And they just happen to have noose rope and bleach on their person. And then so then they started to use those actual instruments to help facilitate the attack. Hold on one second. Help facilitate the attack. And then left him there on the street. That just sounds like a movie script.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That aspect of it, we're all acknowledging that for whatever reason, there is a lie there.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm just saying.
No, it's a lie.
Yeah, I'm not saying it didn't happen.
But
I'm saying that happened random. Exactly.
The randomness of it is a lie.
That's not
random. But the
random.
question is, was Jussie lying about? Was Jussie involved or not? And that's the open-ended question. Did he orchestrate the attack, or did his drug dealers beat his butt because he owed them money? That's really it is, because why would, if you knew it was your drug dealers, you wouldn't have told that story. If you didn't know it was your drug dealers, why wouldn't your drug dealers identify themselves when they beat your butt? You owe me money. So that part of it...
You would tell that story if, under instruction of somebody else, we're going to try to take this, what has happened to you, and then flip it into something else.
Okay.
You would tell that story.
You would tell that
Instead
story.
of just coming out and telling the truth about what's actually going on. I'm just saying, hey, I was attacked, and I'm trying to recuperate from my attack. I want everybody to wish me well, and I'll be back on Empire in, 14 days. And you'll still get the sympathy of being attacked, but just keep everything real vanilla. To try to flip it into something totally different, and to make it seem like it's just random. Like, it's not a lot of it's not a lot of random stuff going on at 2 a.m.
Well, okay, now that I'll give you.
It's not.
It's
not a lot of random stuff going on at 2. At 2 a.m. is a lot of deliberate activity. Because if you even out your house at 2 a.m., you really in your mind decided that you're going to be out at that time of the night.
Especially once you get past 25 years old.
Exactly. Even younger, when I was in my early 20s and out 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, it was very deliberate.
That's true.
It wasn't, I just woke up and I was 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm still outside my house.
Unless you got a drug problem.
Yeah, it was very deliberate. Even if you got a drug problem when you on the compulsive behavior. But I used to be out till like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning when I was in my early 20s. And like, when I left my house at 8 o'clock that night, I knew I was going to be out that late. It didn't just happen like that.
You didn't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning saying I'm going to run
I'm saying, yeah, no. It was never. I left 8, 9, 10 o'clock, sometimes 12 o'clock at night with the intent of being out till 6 o'clock that morning.
So you've never gotten up in the middle of the night and gone and bought a pack of cigarettes?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Because I know how dangerous it is to be out your house at that time of night.
I'm going to give you this. Even Jussie Smollett would have had, because he's not 19 or 20 years old.
Exactly, yeah. He's
but
36.
If he's a drug addict at 36 years old, you might take that. You might take that risk again, and because you're not thinking clearly. You may.
I don't know if he was out at that particular time looking for drugs, but once you hit a certain age, and I would say Jussie Smollett is a fairly reasonable thinking person. You know how dangerous it is to be outside your house at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because the people that are out at 2 o'clock in the morning, they are drug addicts. They looking to sell drugs, or like himself, they looking to rob somebody. That's who's out here at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then there's people doing other stuff, but that's the kind of people that you're going to see out at 2 o'clock in the morning. Walking around on the street.
And at that particular time, it was really cold.
Exactly. And that doesn't justify that he got attacked. Nobody has a right to attack you. If he wanted to walk around at 4 o'clock in the morning, he has a right to. He's a citizen. He shouldn't have to govern his life around, or somebody's going to attack me just because I'm out. But at the same time, I don't think he just ended up outside his house at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's why I don't think that attack was random.
But the subway was open. So somebody going to Subway at 2 o'clock in the morning to eat?
Yeah, you're right. There's public transportation open that late at night, and in certain places, but at the same time, I don't think that his attack was random.
Let me just say this last thing. Seemed like to me they would have had Uber Eats in Chicago like they do in Atlanta. I'm not getting out my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to go get food.
I understand, but even if he did, this still doesn't mean somebody has a right to attack him.
No, it doesn't.
But I don't, like I said before, but I still don't believe that his attack was random. And I think that it's very unfortunate that he wouldn't come out from the offset and just to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what happened to me, or just make it very vanilla where I got attacked and I'll be back, and he can still get the sympathy from the attack. But I think somebody else told him, let's shift this in another direction. It can be beneficial to everybody.
All right. Well, it's been an interesting conversation. I hope that other people find it as interesting as I did. It was interesting to hear your perspective on it. Somebody who's a little more streetwise than me, because I'm looking at this from my very vanilla life.
I feel you.
Not at all, because I didn't even know what Molly was. But I want to thank you very much for your time today. We're going to meet again soon and do some other shows together, and I just really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, I appreciate you having me here.
All right.
Thank you.